Hello, I'm Donna Mejia, and it's an honor to share this moment with you. Due to a recent injury, it's better for me to sit, and I'm doing things a little differently. I wrote us a love letter. May I? Dear friends, I've been a practitioner and educator in the arts, somatic sciences, and critical theories about Earth's human cultures for over 30 years. I began as a professional dancer, studying how movement is culturally perceived and expressed. It's a highly engaging lens for theoretical content, and dance is as ubiquitous and varied as music on our planet. To really examine culture, I also devoted myself to conversancy in social sciences, socioeconomics, philosophy, phenomenology, post-colonialism, musicology, gender studies, somatic science, psychology, and religious studies. This makes me very fond of our TEDx theme, Renaissance. I've also been a multi-heritage human for over 50 years. From my vantage point, the resurgence of supremacy ideologies, misinformed culture wars, and the reshaping of factual narratives isn't new at all, and it continues to interfere with and dissuade some from exploring and understanding human culture. It has been politically weaponized through the ages because cultural practices are gravitational tools of immense impact. In my classes, I've taught how the cultural practice of dance is a living laboratory for a wide range of applications, such as affirmation and preservation of treasured values, reclamation of disparaged or disappearing practices, subversion and resistance in the face of oppression, deviance as a form of protest, at times, forced compliance and suppression of people's identities and bodies, but also remix innovation and transformation of our values and practices. When discussing culture, many students in my classes have exhibited a lack of familiarity with geography, but also a kind of intellectual paralysis and fear of embarrassment, shame, cancel culture, and retribution. Even the potential for cultural collisions kept many from asking questions about material they were encountering for the first time. In response, I developed a social practice for my classroom called Fumble Forward. To keep a space of inquiry open during charged conversations and exchanges, students would preface their public commentary by saying, "I'm about to fumble with my words." The class would answer as a chorus, "Fumble forward." It became our social contract to let confusion be part of our discourse. So perhaps a student was unsure of the terminologies needed to join a conversation. Perhaps they were unsure if their questions would be offensive. Perhaps they didn't have fully formulated ideas and opinions yet. But for the next few minutes, we all agreed to suspend judgment. We would help each other clarify through a process of corrective, delicate, or clumsy verbal surgery. Fumble Forward allowed us to stay open and speak from the heart with diplomacy, even if voices were trembling and stable ground was elusive. We gained a coherent starting place to back away from sounding off on each other, moving towards true listening and sharing. When we used it, a special galvanizing alchemy occurred. Fumble Forward became a practice for approaching the most awkward and challenging moments of delicate, tense, or potentially hurtful conversation. That most difficult moment could be brought forward as a springboard for meaningful engagement and discernment. When misunderstanding, emotionality, or resentment began to fester, and most people craved avoidance, Fumble Forward redirected mounting negativity into breakthrough moments, demonstrating intellectual humility and the building of mutuality. We pledged to not only allow confusion and emotions, we agreed to cooperatively aid each other in the refinement of our questions and ideas. Of course, if willful harm occurs in my class, it's my professional duty to step in. But in all honesty, I've marveled at how skillful our young learners are and how eager they are to try. In fact, they've made some amazing remixes of Fumble Forward. Once, a student raised their hand quickly and when invited to speak, suddenly froze, grew flush in the face, and their eyes brimmed with tears. After a pause and with a very shaky voice, they said, very poetically, "What I'm about to say may be, I think, broken, but perhaps all of you can help me fix it." The entire room listened with open hearts and increasingly coherent language to affirm each other, refine collective talking points, and broaden perspectives. I sat back and watched in a state of inspiration. Another remix has been Mumble Forward. I'm not going to tell you about that. But I have watched many minds and voices bloom. And through it, I have healed my own discouraged and exasperated notions that we as a collective might never understand each other or unite humanity. So may we please give it a try. If I say I'm about to fumble with my words, you can say, "Fumble forward." Well done, A for the day. So Fumble Forward is very easy to say, and I think you are entirely sincere in offering it back to me, but the phrase is just an opening. The underlying work we implicitly agree to is an examination of our social programming and indoctrinations. This is where our true coexistence and polyculturalism begins. Over time, more techniques were added to help us encounter the unexpected, the unfamiliar, and the unknown in what were our inevitable cultural collisions. I call this the Fumble Forward framework, and it has 6 elements I'll summarize here. Number 1, we conduct an assumption index. It's a series of questioning prompts to examine what we presume to be true before awarding ourselves agency to evaluate a topic. This is similar to a positionality statement in the social sciences. We examine parts of our identity and social learning that may have the potential to skew or filter our perceptions. We invest in building questions instead of relying on cultural caricatures. Number 2, we create common reference points. That can be a glossary or a discussion to learn if we have the same understanding of commonly used terms. Surprisingly, we frequently find that we don't. For example, respect, honor, and kindness convey different expectations across various cultures. We closely examine and analyze power differentials between parties in cultural exchanges before we judge the practice as appropriative or harmful. That's number 3. Number 4, Fumble Forward imparts de-escalation techniques and clarifies needed boundaries with those who are under the influence of hateful ideologies or apparently uninterested in locating mutuality. Number 5, we engage a supported, humorous, and playful approach to our own shadow work, or the discovery and unlearning of our own distortions and attachments. And number 6, we co-design ways of curating cultures of care, compassion, and repair when inevitable missteps occur. Workshopping our way through these parts of the framework takes attentiveness, and it's where we bump into juicy material about our attachments and assumptions, but also our aspirations. As an educator, I'm not interested in telling anyone what to think in these moments, but instead, how to locate increasingly better questions. There are often tears of insight, but also humorous surprises about how we've been acculturated. In this way, our curiosity and stamina can be fortified to grow stronger than our defenses. Fumble Forward has been important to me personally. I'm a living, embodied reminder that ethnic intermingling has always happened. whether lovingly or without true consent. Both are part of my family history. Specifically, I am an African, Choctaw, and European-descended human whose ancestors were subjected to slavery, non-consensual sexual servitude, poverty, Jim Crow segregation, dispossession of land, ongoing aggressions, and what my culture calls spirit murder of one's self-worth. The visual ambiguity of my ethnicity, that is, my merely being in the world, can be unsettling for those who rely on social categories to position themselves for interaction with me. I've been questioned and socially tested about it my entire life. I have experienced the insidiousness of white supremacy, the indefensible ridiculousness of gender subjugation, painful betrayals from my own Black and brown peoples due to our internalized colorism, the brutality of domestic violence, and the sting of being told I'm not Black enough, indigenous enough, European enough, smart enough, normal enough. Go ahead and fill in the blank. I witness all the ways humans try to advantage themselves by invoking power differentials. And to be fully honest with you, I have an inner Creole auntie who possesses a sassy, unfiltered warrior temperament that tempts me away from the aims of my own Fumble Forward framework. But I have learned that what awaits us on the other side of cultural collisions is worth the weirdness. I approach it with an open heart, thick skin mentality. I apply Fumble Forward as a practice to initiate communal paths forward in the untapped middle zones between the extremes that are currently activated in our collective mind. This is a legacy to colonialism that is going to take generations of brave curse breakers to undo. And there should be no shame for where each of us may be in our own learning journey, if we are demonstrating a willingness to try. To embrace this vulnerability means we agree to have no disposable moments in life, that we will stay in the arena for much of the potential weirdness that may follow, because we welcome opportunities to practice. We admit we're not blank slates with automatic objectivity. I've learned that the anticipatory dread and resistance I feel in any situation is strangely commensurate and proportional to the degree of healing, insight, and transformation that can come out of it. And so practicing helps. I designed Fumble Forward for participants to have specific diplomacy skills for negotiating the edge of their learning. I also aim for participants to be refreshed into the singular and unique perspectives each of us brings to problem solving and social innovation, your zone of genius. I've shared it far beyond the arts, throughout education in many industries and different nation states, and so thank you to all of you who have embraced the framework and put it into practice wherever you find yourself. The realness of Fumble Forward is my acknowledgement and personal experience that horrific harm occurs in the world. The unmet needs and fears of those who are willing to insult, invalidate, and harm another do not require you to be a doormat. And as you practice, you will witness ignorance, irrational belligerence, intimidation, arrogant deflections of responsibility, or a willful refusal to simply listen. You might want to keep your own Creole auntie ready for action in the wings. And choices like banning books and blocking critical conversations are efforts to choke ideas, to force a singular cultural reference point that temporarily insulates some from their fears. And more importantly, those efforts aim to dismantle precision tools for communicating with each other. These tactics have never succeeded because our inner truths continue to rise generation after generation, and novel ideas, creative symbols, and conversations will emerge with them. We don't have to co-sign harmful actions, but we choose to remember compassionately that someone's attempt to harm represents the ways their humanity has been fragmented. Fixing another may not be our obligation, but modeling patience and equanimity can plant seeds that may bear fruit in the future when another may be finally ready to fumble and heal too. As I fumble forward, there's something extraordinary that always grounds me: testimony. My students would return from their school breaks to tell me how effective Fumble Forward was at a dysfunctional family dinner, or in navigating conflict with roommates, or even managing up with supervisors. Young global leaders with a Dalai Lama Fellows program cited Fumble Forward in their efforts towards ceasefires. Folks throughout education, nonprofit, and private industry wrote or told me about solving high conflict situations. This international community of practice has developed one conversation at a time. In full transparency, I see the healing of my own inner rage over what has happened in my complex history. My inner Creole auntie doesn't seem to mind reassignment to more playful duties. As we practice, each act of intellectual and cultural humility is healing us as a collective. You provide a lane for each person to calibrate and develop friendliness towards their inner truths. So please don't give up. Evolution's not done with us yet. I'm honestly a little hesitant to unleash the next set of ideas into the world. And so will you permit me to future cast and fumble one more time? Hey. We frequently assign magnanimous efforts towards peace to historical figures we have elevated above our perceived location on the evolutionary or spiritual continuum. I'm asking you here now to regard yourself as a node of relevance, a pivotal agent of change through every micro-decision and action you make. If I can resolve cultural collisions within the microcosm of myself, I take that as evidence that there is a path forward for our global citizenship as it proceeds. Creative solutions never arrive if we can't steady ourselves to build bridges of understanding. I'm excited to partner with you in this endeavor. Some of our work will be in the arms of solitude, but much of it will have to be in community. And you are warmly invited to the rewarding life of intellectual and cultural humility as someone willing to fumble forward. We just met, but I actually love you. Can we do this?